Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, and do that. That's nice.
Okay, it looks like we are live.
Yay!
Alright, hello, all you viewers that probably aren't there because I have been inactive for a long time. But I'm going to try to get more stuff. And Daylover and I have already recorded more of our top 5 series, so we're going to get back to that soon.
And when we get to edit it and upload it, right? That sounds fun.
Yeah, everybody loves the editing process.
Yeah.
I've sunk a lot of my life into the editing process.
I think we should make a horror story about that.
Right. But in the meantime, okay, it isn't about that. We are here to read some of our favorite scary stories and invite anyone who wants in to join. So, unfortunately here, one of us, I don't think, prepared any scary stories whatsoever ahead of time.
Well, I found this creepypasta that's like I Am Halloween, and it seems like really good.
I Am Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I guess we'll start out a little lighter than creepypasta, though.
Yeah.
This is, first, some of my old favorite scary stories to tell in the dark, and I'll take a vote from Daylover. Should I start with a scary one, or the closest thing these manage, or should I start with a really stupid one?
Start with the stupid one and make it scarier.
Okay, let's see. How stupid?
Just like, okay, stupid, I guess.
Okay. The Bride. The minister's daughter had just gotten married. After the wedding ceremony, there was a great feast with music and dancing and contests and games, even old children's games. That's the best excuse they can make for this. When they got to playing hide and seek, and a bunch of grown men and women playing hide and seek at an after party at the reception, the bride decided to hide in her grandfather's trunk up in the attic. They'll never find me there, she thought. As she was climbing into the trunk, the lid came down and cracked on her on the head, and she fell unconscious inside. The lid slammed shut and locked. Of course it did.
Ooh.
No one will ever know how long she called for help, or how hard she struggled to free herself from that tomb.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in the village searched for her, and they looked almost everywhere, except the attic in the trunk, of course. But no one thought of looking in the trunk, as she was thrashing as hard as she could inside. After a week, some of these lines aren't actually in the book, I'm adding them myself. After a week, her brand new bridegroom and all the others gave her us. Years later, a maid went up into the attic, looking for something she needed. Maybe it's in the trunk, she thought. She opened it and screamed. There lay the missing bride in her wedding dress. But by then, she was nothing but a skeleton.
Yay, corpse bride.
Yeah, there's your story. Somebody dies and they find the body. It's great, isn't it, that this got published? Still a better love story than 50 Shades of Grey.
And Twilight. At least he was found, yeah.
Yeah. Alright, let's see. How are we amping it up now?
We're ending it up with like 5.
5? That gives me no clues whatsoever. Like,
okay, from stupidly okay to a little bit more scary, please.
Okay, so a little bit more scary.
Yeah.
Alright, now I'm reasonably sure this one did not actually start out as this character. Ooh, we have our first visitor. Choxy! What's up?
Hi.
How do?
You're on your own. Yeah.
I'm on my own?
Hi.
Yeah, I have Daylover here. So how's it going? I had Bunny today, but
Hi, Bunny.
we're reading scary stories though. You got one, or you want to hear one first?
I'll hear one. If you stop roboting.
Ah, shoot. One of the effects here. Actually, come to think of it, is this?
Are
I'm
we
actually
hacking a lot?
I forgot we have this old image here. What's up?
Are we like going in and out, or what is happening?
Oh, just there was a glitch or two.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, are we live here? What's the...
You're supposed to be live.
Well, I mean, does it say we're unlisted? It is really embarrassing if that's the case, but hold on a second. Alright.
Hello.
Let's try this again.
Hello.
Okay, and now I think we're really live. Try this again. Because... Yep. Unfortunately, alright, we started this live stream. We're doing scary stories here on Halloween night, and it looks like the default set it for live streams is unlisted, which don't ask me how the heck that happens. But alright, we're here. We've got Chalkfee and we've got Daylover sitting right next to me.
Yay!
And well,
Happy Sam Hain.
Yay!
He likes saying yeah. And yeah, if you were to rewind, you would hear the first scary story, which was a warm-up here. How dumb can these scary stories get? It was about how somebody dies and they find the body.
Yay.
So
Sounds like weird.
yeah, I know,
What's
right?
the scariest scary story?
All right. So should we try to go more scary this time?
Yeah, a little bit more.
Okay, okay. How about the drum?
Ooh, that sounds scary.
Okay. Once there were two sisters. Doris was 7 and Sandra was 5. They lived in a small house in the country with their mother and their baby brother Arthur. Their father was a seaman, and he was on a long voyage. One day, Dolores and Sandra were running across a field near their house when they met a gypsy girl playing a drum. Her family was camping in the field for a few days. As the girl played, a little mechanical man and woman came out of the drum and danced. Dolores and Sandra had never seen such a drum, and they begged the girl to give it to them. She looked at them and laughed. "I will give it to you," she said, "but only if you are really bad. Come back tomorrow and tell me how bad you were, and I will see." As soon as the two sisters got home, they started shouting, which was against the rules in their house. Then they wrote all over the walls with their crayons. At supper, they spilled their food. And when it was time for bed, they did everything they could think of to upset their mother. They were really bad. Early the next morning, they hurried off to find the gypsy girl. "We were really bad yesterday," they told her, "so please give us the drum." But when they told her what they had done, the gypsy girl laughed. "Oh, you must be much worse than that if I'm going to give you this drum," she said. As soon as Dolores and Sandra got home, they pulled up all the flowers in the garden. They let the pig out and chased it away. They tore their clothes. They sloshed in the mud. They were a lot worse than the day before. "If you do not stop," their mother said, "I will go away and take Arthur with me, and you will get a new mother with glass eyes and a wooden tail." That scared Dolores and Sandra. They loved their mother, and they loved Arthur. They could not imagine being without them, and they began to cry. "I don't want to leave you," their mother said, "but unless you change your behavior, I will have to leave you." "We'll be good," the girls promised. Yet they did not really believe their mother would go away. "She's just trying to scare us," Dolores said. "We'll get the drum tomorrow," said Sandra. "Then we'll be good again." Early the next morning, they rushed off to find the gypsy girl. When they found her, she was playing the drum again, with a little man and woman dancing. They told the gypsy girl how bad they had been the day before. "That must be bad enough to get the drum," they said. "Oh no," said the gypsy girl, "you must be much worse than that." "But we promised our mother to be good from now on," said the girls. "If you really want the drum," said the gypsy girl, "you must be much worse." "It's only one more day," Dolores told Sandra, "then we'll have the drum." "I hope you're right," said Sandra. As soon as they got home, they beat the dog with a stick. They broke the dishes. They tore their clothes to pieces. They spanked their baby brother Arthur. Their mother began to cry. "You are not keeping your promise," she said. "We'll be good," said Dolores. "We promise," said Sandra. "I can't wait much longer," said their mother. "Please try." Early the next morning, before their mother was awake, Dolores and Sandra ran to see the gypsy girl. They told her all about the bad things they had done the day before. "We were horrid," said Sandra. "We were worse than we have ever been," said Dolores. "Can we have the drum now, please?" These old-timey wooden prose sentences. "No," said the gypsy girl. "I never meant to give it to you. It was just a game we were playing. I thought you knew that." "Okay, I think that's where you beat the gypsy weed out of her and take the drum." Dolores and Sandra began to cry. They rushed home as quickly as they could, but their mother and Arthur were gone. "They're out shopping," said Dolores. "We'll be back soon." But they were still not back when time for lunch came. So I like this. These old-timey pictures of them walking in the fields too. Here, take a look at that for a second. Come on, camera. There we go. Yeah.
Next time, say when we're going to be on camera, please.
You're completely blocked off. I don't want to hear it. You. Okay. Dolores and Sandra felt lonely and scared. They wandered through the fields the rest of the day. Maybe they'll come home when we get back, Dolores said. When they got home, they saw through the window that the lamps were lit, and there was a fire in the fireplace. But they did not see their mother and Arthur. Instead, there was their new mother, her glass eyes glistening, her wooden tail thumping on the floor. All right, and that, I think, is, as long as we're going to hold back the, no hold barred scary stories, or at least that's what you said your next one from Creepypasta is going to be a little amped up, right?
I think so. Like, I looked through it and it seems okay.
All right. So.
What is going on exactly?
We're reading scary stories.
Uh-huh. You got one yet? Or will you have one?
What kind of scary stories?
Any kind. We're having fun.
Scary stories.
All right. I'm going to see who Daylover, you want to read yours?
Oh, really? Am I going to read? That's
Go for it.
To be good.
Well.
It's going to sound so wrong.
Just use your serious voice and do your best.
You can also just start the narration on my phone.
Yeah. Nah, I'd tell it. That's like they can go to the video if they were going to watch the video. Come on, you can do it. Daylover.
Yeah.
Come on, read.
That's so long.
Can't do it, I'll take over.
Yeah.
Come on, read.
Halloween is my saving grace. For one night a year, I can go outside without a mask. I don't want it to sound like I spent all year waiting for this day, just whirling away the hours with bated breath and anticipation. I would like to say that I have other interests, that I am able to find myself in some human activity that I actually forgot about. The one day I can truly be myself. Sounds a little like weird.
Sounds like this is a creature going out on Halloween without a disguise.
But this would be a lie. This is an uncommon hour that I go without thinking about.
It's an uncommon hour that I go without thinking about the 31st of October, that glorious night where I can step out into the cool air and almost, just almost, feel human.
The last Halloween was perhaps my favorite of all. My favorite day hasn't been the same since. This area became occupied since the human beings with their warm skin and their inconsiderate minds began constructing ramshackling, rolling within the imaginations of borders of what was once mine. What? This doesn't make any sense. When I saw it wasn't the same, I'm speaking quite literally. My favorite day was different the day before the humans came. So he is a teacher, maybe. Back then I was
referred to as simply. Back then, what I referred to as simply my day took place once every year on what the humans know as October 23rd, a day of great power when the walls between the physical and the supernatural grow thin and malleable. Evil was released into the world on the 23rd of October.
Almost first the I don't believe this is hard.
All right. Where'd you leave off?
Almost such, and then.
An insane, power-hungry beast managed to. Oh, we got another guest.
No, it's just me.
Shakti is back.
No, I've been here the whole time. I just muted myself.
Back unmuted.
Look who's back. Back again.
Yeah.
Alright. Okay, so I'm taking over now for Daylover because she's shy.
No, it's just like really hard to read.
Next, you're going to tell me that Santa Claus is antisocial on Christmas.
Like, I'll find my 2 Dark Towers and read those.
Oh yeah, we're going to read a whole Stephen King book tonight.
Yay!
Alright, let's do this for real. Okay, so his day was October 23rd, where the walls between the worlds grow thin, so let's see. I often wonder what the world might have been like if she hadn't committed the ultimate mistake. It's irrelevant, I always end up telling myself, if I wouldn't exist. The insane power-hungry beast managed to doom her entire species that day. Okay. Unlike the naive human beings who roam the streets in their speeding cars and make screaming love to one another in their shoddy homes, I have been blessed with a natural intuition, allowing me to always understand how far in time we've drifted since our last cycle began. It is this sense that allows me to know the current year as 6020. In human years, I believe that would be 2016. Now we know when the story was written. Anno Domino are the words they use. Words from an ancient language. Ancient by their standards. But I digress. It was Halloween of 6019, or 2015, that was my favorite. My day had always been the 23rd of October. When I was alone here, I would slip out to the surface and enjoy the rush of power, as I was joined by my fellow creatures of the night. I would walk aimlessly and without direction, as the others whipped around me. Some were burdened with deformed, hellish shapes, cursed to roam in the shadows of the earth, safe from humanity's leering eyes. Others were no more physical than the wind itself, and only visible to my eyes because of the power that courses through every living creature on the night of the 23rd. Still, others were beyond form, beyond comprehension, no more than forgotten memories drifting from mind to soul, despairing in their acceptance of eternal suffering. Some have believed that I may end up like them. I have no intention of proving them right. When the humans came and settled down, they scared away my friends. Any human child would find the notion ridiculous. An army of the supernatural, the nightmare of the most disturbed, frightened away by innocent human beings? But it happened this way. The humans didn't come alone. They brought their single, most disturbing, most wicked power of all, the power of denial. Human children spend their time wondering what it would be like to share the powers of their fellow creatures, wings like a bird, perhaps, or the sharp teeth of a dog. They don't understand that they already possess the most powerful gift of all. Through their human denial, they are able to stare us directly in the eyes and inform us that we don't exist. My friends were terrified of the human's gift. They believed that we, as agents of the supernatural, would not be allowed to exist on this mortal plane without the consent of the human beings. Without their belief, we would vanish, become nothing. So they fled. They left my home and went to find a new world, one where humans were scarce or non-existent, where they could expose themselves once a year on October 23rd, reveling in their annual powers without interference from those who may destroy them. They thought I was a fool for staying, for claiming this land as my own. I am not a fool. I know that the humans rule my world now. I know that I've been reduced to a shadow. No, to less than a shadow. But I did not abandon my home. For that I will not apologize. It was many years ago that the first humans came to settle in my home. They built their home uncomfortably close to mine. I watched them as they worked, staying hidden beneath the ground, marveling at how their species had progressed since the last time I saw them. My day came a month after the first humans were settled in. I had spent some time worrying over what might happen. I was not paranoid enough to abandon my home, but I wasn't immune to my friend's terror of humanity. When I waited, I watched the human dwelling until all the and when they no longer waited, and when they were, I waited longer still. Finally, I left my home and began walking, my destination unknown but far away from the house. I was meant to feel exhilaration, the sheer ecstasy of being closer than ever to the joining of two worlds. But what I felt was nothing. There was nothing in the air, nothing moving, just beyond the spectrum of the physical world. I felt the cold night prickle against my skin, and the corpse's hand of darkness caressed the back of my neck. There was no one riding through the air to greet me, no one crawling up from beneath the ground to wish me happy my day. I returned to my home that night, disheartened and full of regret. My day was over, and I had failed to squeeze any semblance of pleasure from its dark hours. I felt as though I had failed, as if something I had done prevented me from enjoying this glorious day. And perhaps I made a mistake. Perhaps I should have followed my friends away from this mountainous land to an untouched world where humans were nothing but a harmless legend. With nothing but regret and disappointment inside me, I slept. I was awoken by a sound I knew I was not used to hearing. Children's laughter. 8 days had come and gone as I slept. I had vaguely wondered on the possibility of sleeping through the entire year, giving myself a chance of reliving my day as quickly as possible. But this idea was thwarted by the children who played above my home. I watched them, careful to remain invisible to their innocent eyes. What I saw confused me. There were two children, one male and one female. I had seen them before, of course. They lived in the human house, with the two adults I presumed to be their parents. The girl and the boy had played outside before, often very close to my home, but never had I seen them dressed in such an eccentric way. The little girl wore a dress of all black, with sleeves that hung down past her small hands. A black hat rested on her head, its brim round and its top pointed like the beak of a crane. For the boy, there was a fancy suit of shiny black material, complete with a red waistcoat and a flowing cape. I recognized his attire as similar to that of humans I had known many centuries earlier. Why he would be reliving the wardrobe of his dead ancestors was beyond my grasp. Their clothes were unusual, yes, but it was their faces that confused me the most. The girl's face had been tinted a bright green color, closer to an emerald than to grass. Dark lines had been added, making her smooth face appear wrinkled and far older than it was. The boy's face had been painted white, with 2 lines of red running down his chin. When he opened his mouth to laugh, I saw that 2 teeth seemed to have grown larger and more pointed. I watched them for many minutes as they played in my grass. Their behavior was odd, unlike that of any humans I had known before. Unlike themselves, in fact. At one moment, the boy appeared to bite into the girl's neck. Rather than scream, she let out a giggle and ran away. When the shadows grew long, the children were called inside. Still confused, I tried to watch through their lit-up windows, hoping for some semblance of an explanation. But it wasn't to come, and when the sun rose the next day, the children had returned to normal. I continued to watch the human family over the next year, and was alarmed when I saw more houses being constructed. For quite some time, I considered abandoning my home, as all my friends had done, but I knew that wasn't the way. Instead, I watched the houses grow like weeds, watched as my grass was paved over, and horseless carriages replaced feet as the primary mode of transportation. The construction of the neighborhood went on for several years, and I watched the humans intrigued, ignoring any threats to my own way of life. Every October 23rd, I would leave my home after nightfall and wander around what remained of my grassy field. No one returned to me. None of my friends came back to admit their mistake. I never again felt the same electric rush that had once defined my day. I was understandably devastated as I came to accept that this thrill, this all-encompassing euphoria, was now beyond my reach. And yet, as the years passed, I found myself with new interests, watching the humans, overhearing their conversations, following their advancement as my once grassy home became a neighborhood. I found great pleasure in watching the humans, but there was another interest of mine, another ongoing question that kept me enraptured for nearly all of my waking moments. This was the mystery of October 31st.
That's really long.
This is really, really, really long.
I warned you.
Hey, you didn't warn me it was unreadably long.
Wow, what a story, Mark.
All right, well,
been joined by quite a lot of people.
Okay, well, that was I Am Halloween. If you want to find out how it ends, look it up on Creepypasta. Try again, find something readable, something we could actually work with. And, let's see. Oh, seems like we have a couple more guests now. All right. Welcome, G and Happy Spaceman.
Hello.
Hello.
Sup? All right. Anybody have a story?
It depends.
It depends
Yes.
on.
Are actual scary stories allowed? Because so far,
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed with what we have right now. So far, that is.
I don't really got any ideas at the moment.
So yeah, actual scary stories. Like I was hoping that we just did a creepypasta one. I was hoping that would be a little more demented. Instead, it turned out to be just somebody's really, really long, Halloween mythos idea.
Okay,
somebody give me an actual scary story.
All right. Once, do I need to tell you the name?
Go for it.
Humans can lick too.
Ooh, I love this one. Go ahead.
Once there was a beautiful young girl who lived in a small town just south of Farmerburg. Her parents had gone to town for a little while, so they left their daughter home alone, protected only by her dog, a very large collie. Her parents told her to lock all the windows and doors after they left, and she obeyed, but there was one window in the basement that would not close. She tried as best as she could, and she finally got the window shut, but it would not lock. She went back upstairs, but just to make sure that no one could get in, she put the deadbolt lock on the door. She had dinner, watched TV, decided to go to sleep for the night, about midnight. She crawled into her bed, snuggled up with her dog, and fell asleep. That is really loud.
All right.
Yeah, I was.
Better?
She crawled into bed and snuggled up with her dog and fell asleep. At one point in the night, she woke up. and turned to look at the clock. 2 hours had passed. It was 2 a.m., and she listened for a moment. She didn't hear a thing. She snuggled down again and wondered what had woken her. But just as she was about to fall back asleep, she heard a noise. A dripping sound. Drip, drip, drip. She thought that maybe she hadn't closed the faucet tight enough after she'd brushed her teeth, and now it was dripping to the drain of the sink. She decided to ignore the sound and went back to sleep. But she didn't know why, but she felt uneasy and a little nervous, so she reached her hand over the edge of the bed and let the dog lick her hand so that she felt sleep. Again, another couple hours later at 4, she woke up and heard dripping. She was annoyed, but still felt sleepy and lazy, and went back to sleep. Again, she reached down and let her dog lick her hand to comfort her and let her fall asleep. At 7 in the morning, she decided that she had had enough. So she got up just as her parents were pulling up to the house. Good, she thought. Now someone can fix that broken sink, because I just know I didn't leave it running. She walked to the bathroom, and there was the collie dog, skinned and hung up on a curtain rod. The noise she heard was its blood dripping into a puddle on the floor. She screamed and ran to her bedroom to get a weapon in case anyone was still in the house. And there, on the floor, next to her bed and the skin of her dog, written in blood, were the words, "Humans can lick too, my beautiful." Humans can lick too.
Dun, dun, dun.
I wanted to go with a classic short one.
Yeah, that was a good idea. I mean, I've heard people try to feed that story steroids with like, oh, and then she found that her parents were thrown down the steps, and then he killed her too.
I just found a version of it. I could have done it from memory, but I didn't want to like stumble on it, so I found a version online. The one I remember was, I think, a college student, or that might have been a different one. It's an urban legend, so they always get a bunch of versions.
Yeah, I like the version best though when she falls back asleep a couple of times, but then decides to check it in the middle of the night, and then yeah, pull back the curtain. Humans can look too, and you don't even know if he's still in the house or not.
I guess the skinned part of the story must have been added for that version, but like it didn't have the part where she reached down and pet what she felt like was a dog, which is usually there. So that's weird that it's not usually skinned and she usually feels a dog. It's weird that those things are both not like wrong there, because you feel like one would lead to the other, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's only 365 days left till next Halloween.
Well, we'll find the right version by then.
And how long for Christmas?
Oh yeah, read Nightmare Before Christmas stories.
Yeah.
And we'll pick this up on Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
No, we won't. All right.
I wish I had some stories, but I don't have any, unfortunately. At least not ones I remember.
We got time if you want to look them up.
Hmm.
I'm not reading Little Black Dog. That's another story that thinks it's scary and it's not.
Sounds scary.
Not really.
Pokemon Dead Channel isn't scary, but I find the character adorable.
Which one?
Pokemon Dead Channel, the creepypasta.
Okay.
The one about BRVR.
All
The
right.
cutest creepypasta character ever.
Hmm.
He just needs a hug.
I think the spookiest thing that happened to me today was trying to click the link to join this chat and discovering that it didn't work in Firefox. That's scary.
Yeah. As if we needed more reasons to hate Firefox.
It only works in Chrome and Internet Explorer, oddly enough.
Through Internet Explorer.
Yeah, I don't even think I'm weird. I actually prefer Firefox over Chrome because
Firefox is pretty good. Internet
Chrome slows my computer down.
About like Internet Explorer, like who's that villain from the like original Power Rangers?
Lord Zed,
No, the
Rita
previous-
Repulsa.
yeah. So like like the opening scene where she's like, I've been trapped for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And there's just a bunch of memes that just are like that scene, and then a caption at the bottom: when you accidentally open Firefox, when you accidentally open Internet Explorer. I've been trapped for 1,000.
That's funny.
All right. Well,
I think the one that real quick. I think the one that I always love is that the internet's now trying to turn Internet Explorer into an anime girl, and is actually trying to make people feel sorry for it. But I don't know if you've ever seen any of the
Google Chrome
comics.
is also an anime girl. Internet Explorer pony memes are adorable.
Those exist? Of course, those exist. Who am I kidding?
Yeah.
It's rule 34.2, I think. The version, it's not about sex, it's about ponies. Instead of everything there's porn of it, everything there's a pony version of it.
Oh, that's
True. That's true.
That's cute.
I think every single Muse album or single cover has been turned into ponies. Like I think there was a version of the Second Law album cover by Muse where they just stuck Rainbow Dash on top of it.
Why not, Rich?
Damn it, searching through the internet and then accidentally looking through Facebook and then finding that one really beautiful scene from Doctor Who with Van Gogh. I'm sorry.
All right, so
my high school band was once turned into ponies by one of my friends.
Oh my god, this is adorable. Somebody dressed a rabbit as a ball of yarn.
Rabbit dressed. Oh, you mean for Halloween? Just like give the rabbit a yarn costume?
Yeah, what it is it's the wrapper that you wrap around a ball of yarn, just wrapped around the bunny's tummy.
Aww.
So it looks like a ball of yarn.
Or like, aren't you worried you're going to be strung up in the yarn and then become a zombie bunny?
All right. Anyway. Okay, I found a scary story in the scary story book that actually does seem scary and not lame. So, all right.
Ending it up on
Sounds. Maestro? That's great. Okay. There was a house near the beach. It was a big old place where nobody had lived for years. From time to time, somebody would force open a window or a door and spend the night there, but never longer. 3 fishermen caught in a storm took shelter there one night. With some dry wood they found inside, they made a fire in the fireplace. They lay down on the floor and tried to get some sleep, but none of them slept that night. First they heard footsteps upstairs. It sounded like there were several people moving back and forth. When one of the fishermen called, "Who's up there?" the footsteps stopped. Then they heard a woman scream. The scream turned into a groan and died away. Blood began to drip from the ceiling into the room where the fishermen huddled. A small red pool formed on the floor and soaked into the wood. Upstairs, a door crashed shut, and again the woman screamed, "Not me!" she cried. It sounded as if she was running, her high heels tapping wildly down the hall. "I'll get you!" a man shouted, and the floor shook as he chased her. Then silence. There wasn't a sound until the man who had shouted began to laugh. Long peals of horrible laughter. They grew louder and filled the house. It went on and on until the fishermen thought they would go mad. And then suddenly it stopped. The fishermen heard someone coming down the stairs, dragging something heavy that bumped on each step. They heard him drag it through the front door and out. The door opened, and then it slammed shut. Again, silence. Suddenly a flash of lightning filled the house, and with a green blaze of light, a ghastly face stared at the fisherman from the hallway. Then came a crash of thunder and black. Terrified, they ran out into the storm and never came back. And the end.
That was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, that was good for this book. All right. And with that, welcome Calliope Pony.
Hello.
Assuming she sometimes has trouble with her audio. She's muted right now. You're muted if you don't know it, Calliope.
Ruh-roh.
All right. Well, while she figures that out, am I still doing a one-man show here, or have people got other scary stories to share?
Still muted as well. I'm looking one up right now. It's trying to see if I can find it, but it's not having any luck for now.
Okay. Anybody another insanely stupid one? Just like, as it somebody really put this down and put it to paper?
I didn't remember one from me.
Insanely stupid.
I'll quickly pass that, but that's also a little stupid though.
How stupid can it get?
Almost as stupid as the little girl being trapped in a coffin.
Oh, okay. Out and back in. How's your audio doing now, Calliope?
Well,
Great.
Okay, well,
wonderful.
technology still sucks, but we do have somebody trying to join the fun, so... on that one bit at a time. Alright, let's see. Find the worst one I can.
Most, what's that? Did you guys do or what?
Let's see. How about the Aaron Kelly's bones? Aaron Kelly was dead. They bought him a coffin and had a funeral and buried him. But that night, he got out of his coffin and he came home. His family was sitting around the fire when he walked in. He sat down next to his window and he said, "What's going on? You all act like somebody died. Who's dead?" His widow said, "You are." "I don't feel dead," he said. "I feel fine." "You don't look fine," his widow said. "You look dead. You'd better go back to the grave where you belong." "I'm not going back to that grave until I feel dead," he said. Since Aaron wouldn't go back, his widow couldn't collect his life insurance. That's how that works. Without that,
And ooh, spooky story bureaucracy.
Without that, she couldn't pay for the coffin, and the undertaker said he would take it back. But Aaron didn't care. He just sat by the fire, rocking in a chair and warming his hands and feet. But his joints were dry and his back was stiff, and every time he moved, he creaked and cracked. One night, the best fiddler in town came to court the widow. Since Aaron was dead, the fiddler wanted to marry her. The two of them sat on one side of the fire, and Aaron sat on the other, creaking and cracking. Boy, that sounds awkward. "Hey, dead husband guy, I'm just going to hit on your widow here." "How long do we have to put up with this corpse?" the widow asked. "Something must be done," the fiddler said. "This isn't very jolly," said Aaron. "Let's dance." The fiddler got out his fiddle and began to play. Aaron stretched himself, shook himself, got up, and took a step or two, and began to dance. With his own old bones rattling and his yellow teeth snapping, his bald head wagging, his arms flip-flopping, around and around he went. With his long legs clicking, his knee bones knocking, he skipped and pranced around the room. How that dead man danced! But pretty soon a bone worked loose and fell to the floor. "Look at that," the fiddler said. "Play faster," said the widow. The fiddler played faster. Crickety-crack, down and back, the dead man went hopping, and his dry bones kept dropping, this way, that way, the pieces just kept popping. "Play, man, play!" cried the widow. The fiddler fiddled, and dead Aaron danced. Then Aaron fell apart, collapsed into a pile of bones, all except his bald head bone. That grinned at the fiddler, cracked its teeth, and kept dancing. "Look at that!" groaned the fiddler. "Play louder!" cried the widow. "Ho-ho!" said the head bone. "Ain't we having fun?" Aaron, he's an optimist. He makes the best of a bad situation. The fiddler couldn't stand it. Widow, he said, I'm going home. And he never came back. The family gathered up Aaron's bones and put them back in the coffin. They mixed them up so he couldn't fit them together. After that, Aaron stayed in his grave. But his widow never did get married again. Aaron had seen to that. I think that story was trying to be funny, but, well, I just heard something from Calliope's mic.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes. Okay.
Hooray.
Hooray.
Hello.
I was having a lot of microphone trouble earlier this week, so hopefully it'll be working now all right.
Well, it's buzzing, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's probably better than mine.
That's good to hear. I think I have one. I have a I have a story up, but I don't know if it would necessarily count as horror, though it is kind of creepy. It's more sci-fi,
Anything's more creepy than the one we just heard, so.
Well, it's by Ray Bradbury, if that tells you anything.
Not really. I don't remember what he does.
Well, it's part of the Martian Chronicles. So I guess I could just read it to you. I'll try not to stutter.
Someone should read the cough.
Do you want to hear it? It's a little on the long side, so I'll try to make it fast.
Yeah.
Go for it. I mean, what the heck?
Yeah.
Everybody gets a turn. Or, well, actually, any of the other people here, if you have a scary story that you're holding and it's shorter, maybe we should go with you first. But
Well, I have one that's not too long.
all right. So, okay, both of you then guesstimations for how many paragraphs or how many minutes or whatever.
Mine's 12 pages, so
Mine is 4 pages.
I'll be
so
leaving.
you're first.
Okay, so I guess Calliope gets to go first, yeah?
Definitely.
Okay, well, since I tend to like going into older stories, mythology and folklore and the like, I decided to pick a creepy story from the Brothers Grimm fairy tale collection.
Nice.
So this is called The Robber Bridegroom. There was once a miller who had a beautiful daughter, and when she was grown up, he became anxious that she should be well married and taken care of, so he thought. If a decent sort of man comes and asks her in marriage, I will give her to him. Soon after, a suitor came forward who seemed very well-to-do, and as the miller knew nothing to his disadvantage, he promised him his daughter.
What?
Oh, did it go quiet on her again?
Yeah.
Like it stuttered on daughter
Yeah.
and then it cut out.
Ruh-roh.
Him as a bride.
Oh, she's back again. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sort of. Kind of.
Screen just went all wonky for a second, and I don't know what went wrong with it.
You broke the internet.
Nothing is scarier than technology.
You're like Wreck-It
It's the
Ralph.
Halloween
You
gro-
broke the internet.
Oh, well. Moving on, unless she went quiet again.
She might have.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yay.
Yep.
Okay, for a moment I couldn't hear any of you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. God, I hope this doesn't keep happening all through the cast. Okay, so where did you last hear me before I cut off?
Well, last line about him marrying, like, yeah, perfect suitor or so he thought, or something like that.
Okay, so a suitor came forward who seemed very well-to-do, and as the miller knew nothing to his disadvantage, he promised him his daughter. But the girl did not seem to love him as a bride should love her bridegroom. She had no confidence in him. As often as she saw him or thought about him, she felt a chill at her heart. One day he said to her, "You are my bride, and yet you have never been to see me." The girl answered, "I do not know where your house is." Then he said, "My house is a long way in the wood." She began to make excuses and said she could not find the way to it. But the bridegroom said, "You must come and pay me a visit next Sunday. I have already invited company, and I will strew ashes on the path through the wood so that you will be sure to find it." When Sunday came and the girl set out on her way, she felt very uneasy without knowing exactly why, and she filled both pockets full of peas and lentils. There were ashes strewed on the path through the wood, but nevertheless at each step she cast to the right and the left a few peas on the ground. So she went on the whole day until she came to the middle of the wood where it was the darkest, and there stood a lonely house, not pleasant in her eyes, for it was dismal and unhomelike. She walked in, but there was no one there, and the greatest stillness reigned. Suddenly she heard a voice cry, turn back, thou pretty bride. Within this house thou must not bide, for here do evil things betide." The girl glanced round and perceived that the voice came from a bird who was hanging in a cage by the wall. And again it cried, turn back, thou pretty bride. Within this house thou must not bide, for here do evil things betide." Then the pretty bride went on from one room into another through the whole house, but it was quite empty, and no soul to be found in it. At last she reached the cellar, and there sat a very old woman nodding her head. "Can you tell me," said the bride, "if my bridegroom lives here?" "Oh, poor child," answered the old woman, "do you know what has happened to you? You are in a place of cutthroats. You thought you were a bride and soon to be married, but death will be your spouse. Look here, I have a great kettle of water to set on, and once they have you in their power, they will cut you to pieces without mercy, cook you and eat you, for they are cannibals. Unless I have pity on you and save you, all is over with you." Then the woman hid her behind a great cask where she could not be seen. "Be still as a mouse," said she. "Do not move or go away, or else you are lost. At night, when the robbers are asleep, we will escape. I have been waiting a long time for an opportunity." No sooner was it settled than the wicked gang entered the house. They brought another young woman with them, dragging her along, and they were drunk and would not listen to her cries and groans. They gave her wine to drink, 3 glasses full, one of white wine, one of red, and one of yellow, and then they cut her into pieces. The poor bride saw all the while, all shaking and trembling, as she saw what the fate held that the robbers had intended for her. One of them noticed on the little finger of their victim a golden ring, and as he could not draw it off easily, he took an axe and chopped it off. But the finger jumped away and fell behind the cask on the bride's lap. The robber took up a light to look for it, but he could not find it. Then said one of the others, "Have you looked behind the great cask?" But the old woman cried, "Come to supper and leave off looking till tomorrow. The finger cannot run away." Then the robbers said the old woman was right, and they left off searching and sat down to eat. And the old woman dropped some sleeping stuff into their wine, so that before long they stretched themselves on the cellar floor, sleeping and snoring. When the bride heard that, she came from behind the cask, and had to make her way among the sleepers lying all about on the ground. And she felt very much afraid, lest she might waken any of them. Shoot. My computer screen just went wonky again. Can you hear me?
You can, actually.
Okay, hooray. I don't know what's going on, but as long as you can hear me. But by good luck she passed through, and the old woman with her, and they opened the door, and they made all haste to leave the house of murderers. The wind had carried away the ashes from the path, but the peas and lentils had budded and sprung up, and the moon upon them showed the way. And they went on through the night till the morning, when they reached the mill. Then the girl related to her father all that had happened to her. When the wedding day came, the friends and neighbors assembled, the miller having invited them, and the bridegroom also appeared. When they were all seated at table, each one had to tell a story, but the bride sat still and said nothing, till at last the bridegroom said to her, "Now, sweetheart, do you know no story? Tell us something." She answered, "I will tell you my dream. I was going alone through a wood, and I came at last to a house in which there were no living souls, but by the wall was a bird in a cage who cried, 'Turn back, thou pretty bride. Within this house thou must not bide, for evil things do here betide.' And then again it said it, 'Sweetheart, the dream is not ended.' Then I went through all the rooms, and they were all empty. It was so lonely and wretched. At last I went down into the cellar, and there sat an old, old woman nodding her head. I asked her if my bridegroom lived in that house, and she answered, 'Ah, poor child, you have come to a place of cutthroats. Your bridegroom does live here, but he will kill you and cut you in pieces, and then cook and eat you. Sweetheart, the dream is not ended.' Then the old woman hid me behind a great cask, and no sooner had she done so than the robbers came home, dragging with them a young woman, and they gave her to drink wine thrice, white, red, and yellow. Sweetheart, the dream is not yet ended. And then they killed her and cut her in pieces. Sweetheart, my dream is not yet ended. And one of the robbers saw a gold ring on the finger of the young woman, and as it was difficult to get off, he took an axe and chopped off the finger, which jumped upwards and then fell behind the great cask in my lap. And here is the finger with the ring." And with these words she drew it forth and showed it to the company. The robber, who during the story had grown deadly white, sprang up and would have escaped, but the folks held him fast and delivered him up to justice. And he and his whole gang were, for their evil deeds, condemned and executed. The end.
Grimm Brothers for the win!
Woo!
Well, it's better than the other stuff.
Well, no, I mean, Grimm Brothers can get pretty morbid right there, but I mean, that is almost like exactly, at least all the way up to where she gets away. I don't know if that, like, modern horror movies or stories or whatever would do it quite that way, but yeah, that was actually really similar to how one of those would go.
Yeah, it's kind of like the original slasher film.
Yeah, before
Kind of
films.
like Wrong Turn, only it wasn't terrible.
So I could start reading this. I'll try to read fast, unless anyone else has anything that's not 12 pages long.
Well, I have the Russian sleep experiment, but I've been doing
That's an old one.
a lot of this, so yeah, so that's what.
That's an old one, man. Old
Yeah,
creepypasta.
so like, well, I was hoping that like it would be one that people forgot, because at least for my money, it was the best creepypasta I ever found. Does everybody already know what I'm talking about?
It was one of the best ones, yeah. It was a pretty good one.
Everybody knows which one I'm talking about, though?
I don't.
Caleb's already read it. Chuck the Not Happy Spaceman.
Happy Spaceman.
Yeah,
All right.
Like an adorable little, like, chibi. You can just imagine a tiny chibi happy spaceman. It's just a little spaceman that's happy.
Want to build a spaceship?
If it
Do you
explains
want to
anything,
build a spaceship?
if it explains anything, I actually came up with this username since I was 11 and haven't bothered to change it ever since.
You know something funny? Astronaut literally means star sailor.
Yeah.
Yep. And the Russian one, cosmonaut, means cosmos sailor.
It's adorable. I'm just imagining them in little sailor suits.
Sailing away on their ships.
Sized for cats.
Does that make Sailor Moon real?
Fighting evil
Yeah.
by
Armstrong is Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon is the
running from a real fight, except she totally runs from a lot of real fights. She is the one Sailor Moon.
Well, I think there's
She
a
gets
reason
better as the
that
series
that was
goes
the
on.
theme.
Yeah.
I mean, wasn't that the theme song though that the U.S. just made up on like, a time limit?
I'm
and-
pretty sure they adapted the Japanese theme, or did they just
They-
grab the
Same melody as some of the Japanese music, but the Japanese theme song was a love song.
Yeah.
It wasn't so nothing to do with anything as the One Piece rap.
It's so great that I'm here. You didn't do anything. Now my work is done. You didn't do anything.
Sailor Moon is, and I actually tried watching Sailor Moon. I couldn't get past the first
I
episode.
don't know. I never really tried to watch it. That was all.
Didn't they redub it though and do a
I
better
know
job?
it's really fluff.
Yeah, that's
Make it a
I
little
heard, yeah, I
less
heard they
Sailor-
came out with a better. I heard they came out with their English dub recently. I haven't seen that. I got to give the original
What?
English dubs credit in that it got me into the show. But if you compare it with the Japanese, the original English dub is really, really bad. The Japanese is so much better.
I want a version with more gay people because there were like gay people in the Japanese version or bi people or whatever.
There was
That
one
got
pair.
changed.
Yeah. They were cousins or some such.
Cousins.
Yeah.
And that
But
one
dude,
male character got changed into a female character for like reasons.
I don't know.
I think that did get my attention though, that like apparently there's a Sailor Venus, but apparently there was a manga story, like the first thing in the whole Sailor Moon franchise is Sailor Venus's story about how she's actually the first one to get powers and she's saving the world and stuff, and it's all about her. And then when she shows up in Sailor Moon as somebody who's already been at this a while, the one and only hero of her. Oh, sure, you can join the group too. But I thought I was the hero of this story. Well, sure, fall in line.
Now, out of us, who would be the protagonist?
I
Hmm.
don't know.
Hmm.
Do any of us seem very protagonisty?
I don't know. I
I do kind of. I do run the Rift, and I don't think I'm any more of an unusual lead than Sailor Moon is. Like, she's the doofy one who is a super every girl and gets like mediocre grades if even, but also.
I'm the guy with the cape and the.
Oh yeah, sure. Let's do it that way.
Sure.
I'm clearly the wacky character.
Whoa, was that a chainsaw on that end? Sound like there's a chainsaw.
I just ignore that. I don't care anymore. I need to sleep soon.
I don't care anymore.
All right. All right. Well, let's do Happy Spaceman's story then.
All right. This one
Everybody else
is kind of
knows
old.
Long.
Yeah, this one's kind of old. I think it was either 1960s or I don't know, maybe 1940s. I don't know. But yeah, this one is called "Mars is Heaven" by Ray Bradbury. I will try not to stutter when reading it. So enjoy. It's a little bit long. The ship came down from space. It came from the stars and the black velocities and the shining movements and the silent gulfs of space. It was a new ship. It had fire in its body and men in its metal cells, and it moved with a clean silence, fiery and warm. In it were 17 men, including a captain. The crowd at the Ohio field had shouted and waved their hands up into the sunlight, and the rocket bad bloomed out great flowers of beet and cobs and run away into space on the third voyage to Mars. Now it was decelerating with metal efficiency in the upper Martian atmospheres. It was still a thing of beauty and strength. It had moved in the midnight waters of space like a pale sea leviathan. It had passed the ancient moon and thrown itself onward into one nothingness following another. The men within it had been battered, thrown about, sickened, made well again, each in his turn. One man had died, but now the remaining 16, with their eyes clear in their heads and their faces pressed to the thick glass ports, watched Mars swing up under them. "Mars, Mars, good old Mars, here we are!" cried Navigator Lustig. "Good old Mars," said Samuel Hinkston, archaeologist. "Well," said Captain John Black. The ship landed softly on a lawn of green grass. Outside upon the lawn stood an iron deer. Further up the lawn, a tall, brown Victorian house sat in the quiet sunlight, all covered with scrolls and rococo Rococo, I guess. Its windows made of blue and pink and yellow and green colored glass. Upon the porch were hairy geraniums and an old swing, which was hooked into the porch ceiling, and which now swung back and forth, into a little breeze. At the top of the house was a cupola with diamond leaded glass windows and a dunce cap roof. Through the front window, you could see an ancient piano with yellow keys and a piece of music titled Beautiful Ohio sitting on the music rest. Around the rocket in 4 directions spread this little town, green and motionless in the Martian spring. There were white houses and red brick ones, and tall elm trees blowing in the wind, and tall maples and horse chestnuts, and church steeples with golden bells silent in them. The men in the rocket looked out and saw this. Then they looked at one another, and then they looked out again. They held on to each other's elbows, suddenly unable to breathe, it seemed. Their faces grew pale, and they blinked constantly, running from glass port to glass port of the ship. "I'll be damned," whispered Lustig, rubbing his face with his numb fingers, his eyes wet. "I'll be damned. Can't be. It just can't be," said Samuel Hinkston. "Lord," said Captain John Black. "There's a call from the chemist. Sir, the atmosphere is fine for breathing, sir." Black turned slowly. "Are you sure?" "No doubt of it, sir." "Then we'll go out," said Lustig. "Lord, yes," said Samuel Hinkston. "Hold on," said Captain John Black. "Just a moment. Nobody gave any orders." "But, sir, nothing. How do we know what this is?" "We know what it is, sir," said the chemist. "It's a small town with good air in it, sir." "It's a small town the like of Earthtown," said Samuel Hinkston, the archaeologist. "Incredible. It can't be, but it is." Captain John Black looked at him, idly. "Do you think that the civilizations of 2 planets can progress at the same rate and evolve in the same way, Hinkston?" "I wouldn't have thought it so, sir." Captain Black stood by the port. "Look out there. The geraniums. A specialized plant. That specific variety has only been known on Earth for 50 years. Think of the thousands of years of time it takes to evolve plants. Then tell me if it is logical that the Martians should have 1. Leaded glass windows, 2. Cupolas, 3. Porch swings, 4. An instrument that looks like a piano and probably is a piano, and 5. If you look closely, if a Martian composer would have published a piece of music titled, strangely enough, Beautiful Ohio, all of which means that we have an Ohio riv here on Mars." "It is quite strange, sir. Strange, hell, it's absolutely impossible. I suspect the whole bloody shooting setup. Something's wrong here, and I'm not leaving this ship until I know what it is." "Oh, sir," said Lustig. "Damn it," said Samuel Hinkston. "Sir, I want to investigate this at first hand. It may be that there are similar patterns of thought, movement, civilization on every planet in our system. We may be on the threshold of the great psychological and metaphysical discovery in our time, sir, don't you think?" "I'm willing to wait a moment," said Captain John Black. "It may be, sir, that we are looking upon a phenomenon that, for the first time, would absolutely prove the existence of a god, sir. There are many people who are good faith without such proof, Mr. Hinkston. I'm one myself, sir, but certainly a thing like this out there," said Hinkston, "could not occur without divine intervention, sir. It fills me with such terror and elation, I don't know whether to laugh or cry, sir." "Do neither, then, until we know what we're up against." "Up against, sir?" inquired Lustig. "I see that we're up against nothing. It's a good, quiet, green town, much like the one I was born in, and I like the looks of it." "When were you born, sir?" Lustig. "In 1910, sir." "That makes you 50 years old now, doesn't it?" "This being 1960? Yes, sir." "Okay, so it's 1960. That's cleared up." "And you, Hinkston?" 1920, sir, in Illinois. And this looks swell to me, sir." "This couldn't be heaven," said the captain ironically, "though I must admit it looks peaceful and cool and pretty much like the Green Bluff, where I was born in 1915. He looked at the chemist. "The air's all right, isn't it?" "Yes, sir." "Well then, tell you what we'll do. Lustig, you and Linkston and I will fetch ourselves out to look about this town over. The 14 other men will stay aboard this ship. If anything untoward happens, lift the ship and get the hell out. Do you hear what I say, Craner?" "Yes, sir. The hell out we'll go, sir. Leaving you? A loss of 3 men's better than a loss of a whole ship. If something bad happens, get back to Earth and warn the next rocket. That's Lingle's rocket, I think, which will be completed and ready to take off sometime around next Christmas, which he has to meet up with. If there's something hostile about Mars, we certainly want the next expedition to be well armed. So are we, sir. We've got a regular arsenal with us. Tell the men to stand by the guns, then, as Lustig and Hingston and I go out. Right, sir. Come along, Lustig, Hingston. The three men walked together down the levels of the ship. It was a beautiful spring day. A robin sat on a blossoming apple tree and sang continuously. Showers of petal snow sifted down where the wind touched the apple tree, and the blossom smell drifted upon the air. Somewhere in the town, someone was playing the piano, and the music came and went, softly, drowsily. The song was Beautiful Dreamer. Somewhere else, a phonograph, scratchy and faded, was hissing out a record of Roman and the Gloamin', sung by Henry Lapder. The three men stood outside the ship. The port closed behind them. At every window, a face pressed, looking out. The large metal guns pointed this way and that, ready. Now the phonograph record being played was, "Oh, give me a June light, the moonlight and you." Lustig began to tremble. Samuel Hingston did likewise. Hingston's voice was so feeble and uneven that the captain had to ask him to repeat what he had said. "I said, sir, that I think I have solved this. All of this, sir." "And what is the solution, Hingston?" The soft wind blew. The sky was serene and quiet, and somewhere a stream of water ran through the cool caverns and tree shadings of a ravine. Somewhere a horse and wagon trotted and rolled by, bumping. "Sir, it must be. It has to be. This is the only solution. Rocket travel began to Mars in the years before the First World War, sir." The captain stared at his archaeologist. "No." "Yes, sir. You must admit. Look at all of this. How else can he explain it? The houses, the lawns, the iron deer, the flowers, the pianos, the music. Hingston, oh." And the captain put his hand to his face, shaking his head. His hand shaking no. His lips blue. "Sir, listen to me." Hingston took his elbow persuasively and looked up into the captain's face, pleading. "Say that there were some people in the year 1905, perhaps, who hated wars and wanted to get away from Earth, and they got together, some scientists in secret, and built a rocket out to here to Mars." "Oh, no, Hingston. Why not? The world was a different place in 1905. They could have kept it a secret much more easily." "But the work, Hingston, the work of building a town, a complex like this, on a rocket. Oh, no." The captain looked at his shoes, looked at his hands, looked at the houses, and then at Hingston. "And then they came up here, and naturally the houses they built were similar to Earth houses because they brought the the cultural architecture with them, and here it is." "And they've lived here all these years?" The captain. "In peace and quiet, sir, yes. Maybe they made a few trips to bring enough people here for one small town and then stopped for fear of being discovered. That's why the town seems so old-fashioned. I don't see a thing myself that is older than the year 1927, do you?" "No, frankly I don't, Hingston." "These are our people, sir. This is an American city. It's definitely not European." That's right, too, Hingston. Or maybe, just maybe, sir, rocket travel is older than we think. Perhaps it started in some parts of the world hundreds of years ago, was discovered and kept secret by a small number of men, and then came to Mars with only occasional visits to Earth over the centuries. You make it sound almost reasonable." "It is, sir. It has to be. We have the proof right here before us. All we have to do now is find some people and verify it." "You're right there, of course. We can't just stand here and talk. You bring your gun?" "Yes, but we won't need it. We'll see about it. Come along, we'll ring that doorbell and see if anyone's home." Their boots were now deadened of all sound in the thick green grass. It smelled from a fresh mowing. In spite of himself, Captain John Black felt a great peace come over him. It had been 30 years since he had been in a small town, and the buzzing of spring bees on the air lulled and quieted him, and the fresh look of things was a balm to the soul. Hollow echoes sounded from under the boards as they walked across the porch and stood before the screen door. Inside, they could see a bead curtain, not a bread curtain, whoops, Inside, they could see a bead curtain hung across the hall entry, and a crystal chandelier with a Maxfield Parrish painting framed on one wall over a comfortable Morris chair. The house smelled old and of the attic, and infinitely comfortable. You could hear the tinkle of ice rattling in a lemonade pitcher. In a distant kitchen, because of the day, someone was preparing a soft lemon. I don't know. This document I found is a lot of typos, so I don't know. Captain John, Captain John Black rang the bell. Footsteps, dainty and thin, came across the hall, and a kind-faced lady of some 40 years, dressed in the sort of dress you might expect in the year 1909, peered out at them. "Can I help you?" she asked. "Beg your pardon," said Captain Black, certainly. "But we're looking for, that is, could you help us? I mean," he stopped. She looked out at him with some dark, wondering eyes. "If you're selling something," she said, "I'm much too busy and haven't time." She turned to go. "No, wait," he cried bewilderedly. "What town is this?" She looked up and down him as if he were crazy. "What do you mean, what town is it? How could you be in a town and not know what town it was?" The captain looked as if he wanted to go sit under a shady apple tree. "I beg your pardon," he said, "but we're strangers here. We're from Earth, and we want to know how this town got here and how you got here." "Are you census takers?" she asked. "No," he said. "What do you want, then?" she demanded. "Well," said the captain. "Well?" she asked. "How long has this town been here?" he wondered. "It was built in 1868, she snapped at them. "Is this a game?" "No, not a game," the captain. "Oh, God," he said. "Look here. We're from Earth." "From where?" she said. "From Earth." "Where's that?" "From Earth," he cried. "Out of the ground, do you mean?" "No, from the planet Earth," he almost shouted. "Here," she insisted. "Come out on the porch and I'll show you." "No," she said. "I won't come out there. You are all evidently quite mad from the sun." Lustig and Hingston stood behind the captain. Hingston now spoke up. "Mrs.," he said, "we came in a flying ship across space, among the stars. We came from the third planet from the sun, Earth, to this planet, which is Mars. Now do you understand, Mrs.?" "Mad from the sun," she said, taking hold of the door. "Go away now before I call my husband, who's upstairs taking a nap, and he'll beat you with his fists." "But," said Hingston, "this is Mars, is it not?" "This," explained the woman, as if she were addressing a child, "is Green Lake, Wisconsin, on the continent of America, surrounded by the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, on a place called the world, or sometimes Earth. Go away now. Goodbye." She slammed the door. 3 men stood before the door with their hands up in the air toward it, as if pleading with her to open it once more. They looked at one another. "Let's knock the door down," said Lustig. "We can't," said the captain. "Why not?" "She didn't do anything bad, did she? We're the strangers here. This is private property." "Good God, Hingston." He went and sat down on the porch step. "What, sir? Did it ever strike you that maybe we got ourselves somehow, some way fouled up, and by accident came back and landed on Earth?" "Oh, sir, oh, sir, oh, sir, sir!" Hingston sat down numbly and thought about it. Lustig stood up in the sunlight. "How could we have done that?" "I don't know. Just let me think," Hingston said. "But we checked every mile of the way, and we saw Mars, and our chronometer said so many miles gone. And we went past the moon and out into space, and here we are, on Mars. I'm sure we're on Mars, sir." "Suppose that by accident in space," said Lustig, "in time or something, we landed on a planet in space another time. Suppose this is Earth, 30, 50 years ago. Maybe we got lost in the dimensions, don't you think?" "Oh, go away, Lustig. Are the men in the ship keeping an eye on this, Hingston?" "At their guns, sir." Lustig went to the door, rang the bell. When the door opened again, he asked, "What year is this?" "1926, of course," cried the woman furiously, and slammed the door again. "Did you hear that?" Lustig ran back to him wildly. "She said 1926. We have gone back in time. This is Earth." Lustig sat down, and the 3 men let the wonder and terror of the thought afflict them. Their hands stirred fitfully on their knees. The wind blew, knotting the locks of their hair on their heads. The captain stood up, brushing off his pants. "I never thought it would be like this. It scares the hell out of me. How could a thing like this happen?" "Will anybody in the whole town believe us?" wondered Hingston. "Are we playing around with something dangerous? Time, I mean. Shouldn't we just take off and go home?" "No, we'll try another house." They walked 3 houses down to a little white cottage under an oak tree. "I like to be as logical as I can," said the captain. He looked at the town. How does this sound to you, Hinkston? Suppose, as you said originally, that rocket travel occurred years ago, and when the Earth people have lived here a number of years that they began to get homesick for Earth. For first a mild neurosis about it, then a full-fledged psychosis, then threatening insanity. What would you do as a psychiatrist if fated with such a problem? Hinkston thought. Well, I think I'd rearrange the civilization of Mars so it resembled Earth more and more every day. If there was any way of reproducing every plant, every road, and every lake, and even an ocean, I would do so. Then I would, by some vast crowd hypnosis, theoretically anyway, convince everyone in a town this size that this really was Earth, not Mars at all. Good enough, Hinkston. I think we're on the right track now. That woman at the house back there just thinks that she's living on Earth, protects her sanity. She and all the others in this town are the patients of the greatest experiment in migration and hypnosis you will ever lay eyes on in your life. That's it, sir, cried Lustig. Well, the captain sighed. Now we're getting somewhere. I feel better. It all sounds a bit more logical now. It's about time and going back and forth and time traveling turns my stomach upside down, but this way, he actually smiled for the first time in a month. Well, it looks like we'll be fairly welcome here. Or will we, sir? Said Lustig. After all, like the pilgrims, these people came here to escape Earth. Maybe they won't be too happy to see us. So maybe they'll come down to drive us out or kill us out. We have superior weapons if that should happen. Anyway, all we can do is try. This next house now. Up we go. But they had hardly crossed the lawn when Lustig stopped and looked across the town, down the quiet, dreaming afternoon sunset. Sir, he said. What is it, Lustig? Oh, sir, what I see. What do you see now before me? Oh! He began to cry. His fingers came up, twisting and trembling, and his face was all wonder and joy and incredulity. He sounded as if any moment he might go quite insane with happiness. He looked down the street and he began to run, stumbling awkwardly, falling, picking himself up and running on. Oh, God, thank you, God, thank you! Don't let him get away! The captain broke into a run. Now Lustig was running at full speed, shouting. He turned into a yard halfway down the little shady side street and leaped up onto the porch of a large green house with an iron rooster on the roof. He was beating upon the door, shouting and hollering and crying when Hinkston and the captain ran up and stood in the yard. The door opened. Lustig yanked the screen wide and in a high wail of discovery and happiness, cried out, Grandma! Grandpa! Two old people stood in the doorway, their faces lit up. Albert! Their voices piped, and they rushed out to embrace and pat him on the back and move around him. Albert! Oh, Albert! It's been so many years! How you've grown, boy! How big you've ate! Oh, Albert, boy, how are you? Grandma, Grandpa! Sobbed Albert. Good to see you. You look fine, oh, fine! He held them, turned them, kissed them, hugged them, cried on them, held them out again, blinked at the little old people. The sun was in the sky, the wind blew, the grass was green, the screen door stood open. Come in, lad, come in, there's lemonade for you, fresh, lots of it. Grandma, Grandpa, good to see you. I've got friends down here. Here! Lustig turned and waved wildly at the captain and Hinkleston, who all during the adventure on the porch had stood in the shade of a tree, holding on to each other. Captain, come up! I want to meet my grandfolks. Howdy, said the folks. Any friends of Albert's is of ours too. Don't stand there with your mouths open. Come on in. In the living room of the old house, it was cool, and a grandfather clock ticked high and long and bronzed in one corner. There were soft pillows on large couches and walls filled with books and a rug cut in a thick rose pattern and anti-macassars, I don't know, pins to furniture and lemonade in the hand, sweating and cool on the thirsty tongue. Here's to our health. Grandma tipped her glass to her porcelain teeth. How long you been here, Grandma? Said Lustig. Good many years, she said tartly. Ever since we died. Ever since you what? Asked Captain John Black, putting his drink down. Oh, yes. Lustig looked at his captain. They've been dead 30 years. And you sit there calmly? Cried the captain. Tush, said the old woman, and winked glitteringly at John Black. Who are we to question what happens? Here we are. What's life, anyways? Who does what for why and where? All we know is here we are alive again and no questions asked. Second chance. She toddled over and held out her thin wrist to Captain John Black. Feel, he felt. Solid, ain't I? She asked. He nodded. You hear my voice, don't you? She inquired. He did. Well then, she said in triumph, why go around questioning? Well, said the captain, simply that we've never thought we'd find a thing like this on Mars. Now you've found it. I dare say there's lots on every planet that'll show you God's infinite ways. Is this heaven? Asked Hingston. Nonsense, no. It's a world and we get a second chance. Nobody told us why, but then nobody told us we were on Earth either. That other Earth, I mean, the one you came from. How do we know there wasn't another before that one? A good question, said the captain. He stood up and slapped his hand on his leg in offhand fashion. We've got to be going. It's been nice. Thank you for the drinks. He stopped. He turned and looked at the door, startled. Far away in the sunlight, there was a sound of voices, a crowd, a shouting, and a great hello. What's that? Asked Hingston. We'll soon find out. And Captain John Black was out the front door abruptly, jolting across the green lawn into the street of the Martian town. He stood looking at the ship. The ports were open and his crew were streaming out, waving their hands. A crowd of people had gathered, and in and through and among these people, the members of the crew were running, talking, laughing, shaking hands. People did little dances. People swarmed. The rocket lay empty and abandoned. A brass band exploded in the sunlight, flinging off a gay tune from upraised tubas and trumpets. There was a bang of drums and a shrill of fifes. Little girls with golden hair jumped up and down. Little boys shouted, "Hooray!" And fat men passed around 10-cent cigars. The mayor of the town made a speech. Then each member of the crew, with a mother on one arm, a father or sister on the other, was spirited off down the street into little cottages or big mansions, and with doors slammed shut. The wind rose in the clear spring sky, and all was silent. The brass band had banged off around the corner, leaving the rocket to shine and dazzle alone in the sunlight. Abandoned, cried the captain. Abandoned the ship, they did. I'll have their skins, by God. They had orders! Sir, said Lustig, don't be too hard on them. Those were all old relatives and friends. That's no excuse. Think how they felt, Captain, seeing familiar faces outside the ship. I would have obeyed orders. I would have. The captain's mouth remained open. Striding along the sidewalk, under the Martian sun, tall, smiling, eyes blue, face tan, came a young man of some 20 years. John, the man cried and broke into a run. What? Said the captain, John Black. He swayed. John, you old beggar, you. The man ran up and gripped his hand and slapped him on the back. It's you, said John Black. Of course, who do you think it was? Edward! The captain appealed now to Lustig and Hingston, holding the stranger's hand. This is my brother Edward. Ed, meet my men. Lustig, Hingston, my brother. They tugged at each other's hands and arms and then finally embraced. Ed, John, you old bum. You're looking fine, Ed, but Ed, what is this? You haven't changed over the years. You died, I remember. You were 26, I was 19. God, so many years ago, and here you are, and what goes on? What goes on? Edward Black gave him a brotherly knock on the chin. Mom's waiting, he said. Mom? And Dad, too. And Dad? The captain almost fell to earth as if it hit him on the chest with a mighty weapon. He walked stiffly and awkwardly, out of coordination. He stuttered and whispered and talked only one or two words at a time. Mom alive? Dad? Where? The old house in Oak Mill Avenue. The old house. Captain stared in delighted amazement. You hear that, Lustig? Hingston? No, it's hard for you to believe. Alive. Real? Don't I feel real? The strong arm, the firm grip, the white smile, the light curling hair. Hingston was gone. He had seen his own house down the street and was running for it. Lustig was grinning. Now you understand, sir, what happened to everybody on the ship. They couldn't help themselves. Yes. Yes, said the captain, eyes shut. Yes, he put out his hand. When I open my eyes, you'll be gone. He opened his eyes. You're still here. God, Edward, you look fine. Come along, lunch is waiting for you. I told Mom, Lustig said. Sir, sir, I'll be with my grand folks if you want me. What? Oh, fine, Lustig. Later, man. Edward grabbed his arm and marched him. Need support. I do. My knees, they're all funny. My stomach, loose. God. There's the house. Remember it? Remember it? Hell, I bet I can beat you to the front porch. They ran. The wind roared over Captain John Black's ears. The earth roared under his feet.
Hmm.
Don't worry. Don't worry. We're like 3/4 of the way through.
Oh, really?
3/4. It's been half an hour.
Uh,
I
Don't
would have
sorry.
been-
the ending's worth it.
I'm gonna look for a story to read.
I have a class at 8 o'clock in the morning. I have to wake up at 5.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Guys, can you hear me?
I could just get to the twist ending if you want.
Keep
Guys,
going.
can you hear me?
going. Yeah, we can hear you, Jordan. We knew it was you.
If you want, you can just get to the twist ending. Would that be okay?
Okay, I'm gonna look for
I don't mind if you want to skip ahead a bit.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry about that. It was a lot longer than I remember it being.
Yeah, you can go next if you want, Jordan. But yeah, right now, Happy Spaceman's reading.
Hmm.
All right. Well, I don't have any stories. I'm gonna look for one though.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just you guys can finish this if you want. I don't feel like reading anymore. Honestly, it's kind of taking a toll on my throat. Yeah, basically all you need to know about the twist ending is that it turns out that the Martians have used the memories of the astronauts to lure them into their old homes when they're killed in the middle of the night.
That's barely a twist. That's just obvious.
Yeah.
That's like the first guess.
It was a twist at the time. Anyway, I actually
It seems like a shitty Twilight Zone episode that was rejected and turned into a story instead.
hold on a
Well, I
second.
think Ray Bradbury had
Knocking on
some
my door.
influence on Twilight.
I think I got trick or treaters or something. Someone knocking on my door. I gotta get out of here.
Okay.
Good night. I have to go because in 11 minutes I need to sleep ish.
Okay.
Good night. Have a good night's sleep.
I am so tired.
Take care. I didn't hear it though. What was the twist again?
Something about
It was all an illusion.
Yeah, Martians
Yeah.
brainwash them. They're like trapping them. Like basically, the first thing that you think of might be the twist. That's the twist.
All right then.
It's the idea that like a Doctor Who episode would come up with in the first 20 minutes, and then that gets revoked, and like 3 more things happen before the actual one happens.
Okay, I think I might have something here. It's a film fiction called Discord's Haunted House. This nightmare night,
That sounds like fun.
decided to decorate Twilight's castle and dares Twilight and her friends to explore it. Are they prepared for a castle haunted by the spirit of chaos?
All right. How long is it?
It's about 4,930 words long in total length. I'm not that fast of a reader, but how
What
long?
is that? About 5 pages.
I don't know. It's on Film Fiction right here. I put the link in the group chat.
Okay, so 4,000, somewhat between 4 and
About
5,000.
About 5,000 words.
Yeah.
So, how many pages? Something like 5 pages, 10. I don't know. Hey, well,
Not sure
Wait a
how long
second.
that'll take to read.
we'll put it to a group. But well, okay. Why don't we
It
interject
sounds
some
like a
shorter stories? What?
sounds like a fun setup for a story.
That's fair.
All right.
So we interject some shorter stories first, just to mix it up. If anyone has some shorter ones.
I guess I could look for a shorter story.
All right. Well, could inject another one from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
All right. Sounds like fun.
No, I
I'll
was
check
thinking
and I'll check my books.
lighthearted, so.
I can check my
All
books
right,
to see if I have
um,
another shorter story if you want.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
Let's see. Okay, do you guys want a one that's like actually scary or as close to it as this gets, or do you want like just to see how silly these things can get?
Either or.
Okay, one vote either or. What do you vote, Anna?
I don't know. It's okay.
Another vote either or. How about you, Jordan?
I don't know. Would you like for me to read this? Are you okay with that?
It sounds like a good story. I'm just a little concerned that 5,000 words could.
Well, why don't we just read the first chapter right for now?
Okay, that sounds good. And if you read the first chapter and we leave it at that, then everyone who listens to the podcast will go over and give the story a bunch of views.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Yeah, hopefully.
Let's do it.
Yay!
All right. Discord's Haunted Castle. Chapter 1. Discord's idea. Spike, are you done with your costume yet? Almost, Twilight. The door opened and Spike came out. Ta-da! This year, I'm a 3-headed dragon. He spread his arms triumphantly. He was wearing a purple dragon costume with one head as a hood and the 2 other heads as gloves on over his hands. Twilight smiled. What'll it be next year? 6 heads? Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Now, what are you supposed to be? Twilight was as white as snow, and her mane was longer, flowing as if blown by an unseen wind, somewhat like the Camelot princesses, only Twilight was flowing behind her instead of in front. I decided to be a Wendigo. Starlight and I had a hard time finding the spells to pull off the right effect. What do you think? Not bad, Spike admitted. What's Starlight going as? A manticore. Starlight walked up to them and spun around. Her coat had been dyed brown. She was wearing a lion's mane around her neck, bat-like wings on her back, and her ponytail had been tucked into a makeshift scorpion stinger. Awesome. I can't wait to see the others see us. The 3 of them walked into the foyer. Went to the foyer. Sorry. I'm bad at reading. First time. The others should be here any moment, Twilight observed. We'll hit Trixie's show first, which should last an hour. Then Sugar Cube Corner will stay for about an hour. Then an hour at the corn maze. Then Spike and I will make the rounds for candy. And what if something lasts an hour and a half? Starlight asked slyly. That's when the world explodes, Spike said dryly. Twilight responded. If it's worth doing, it's worth scheduling. Spike and Starlight rolled their eyes. Then they heard a knock at the door. Twilight opened it, but no pony was there. You better not stay out too late. I didn't want you to be too tired for what I have planned. The voice came from behind her. She turned to meet the source. Oh, hello, Discord. Dare I ask what you're up to tonight? Discord grinned. I was thinking, your castle is so roomy, so much wasted space. I thought it would be fun to fill it up with some nightmare night frights. So how about this? After you finish your meticulously planned evening, bring every pony back here. I have some surprises waiting for you. Twilight furrowed her brow. I don't know. Come on, Twilight, Spike piped up. Sounds like it could be fun. Or dangerous, Twilight pointed out. Nah, Discord will keep things safe, right? If you insist, Discord replied with a dramatic sigh. Ooh, Twilight pawed the ground. What do you think, Starlight? I guess it could be interesting, she admitted. I say let Discord do his thing. Discord put on a pair of glasses then produced a box which he pulled 3 sheets from. The votes are in, 2 for yes, 1 for undecided. I think the results are clear. Twilight rolled her eyes. Hang on a second, guys. Here you go. Before we move on, got someone to show you.
Oh,
Aww, how cute. Hello.
This is Ace. I got him for graduation earlier this year. He's about 7 months old.
is that a Maltese?
No, he's a Labradoodle. Australian Labradoodle, to be exact.
Yeah, you know what? He's bigger than I realized he was at first.
Aw, how cute.
Congratulations.
Belly rubs.
Anyways, as I was saying, by the way, he just wanted up on my bed.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, as I was saying, all right.
As he was saying.
All right, just be careful you don't hurt any pony, and put everything back the way it was. You have my word, Discord bowed. Twilight sighed. I guess it'll have to do. Come on, gang. Twilight opened the front door and the 3 of them stepped into the night. That's the end of the first chapter.
That was a good start.
Thanks. I guess I was bad, kinda.
No, besides, we had an interlude with a puppy. That's always good.
Yep. Isn't that right, Ace?
Right. All right. Well, I did find something that's supposed to be like the scariest text chat conversation in history.
Oh, really?
If anybody. Uh-huh.
Okay.
All right. Well, here goes nothing. Okay. Now this is between 2 people who, with usernames Annie96 and McDavie, and I'm just gonna call them David and Ace. That's what they call each other. So.
Do you have a link to it?
Well, yeah, but I still have to read it out loud, so I'll point to this. But, anyway. Alright. Here's your link. Now then. Of course, this has to start out with all the, hey, we're talking about what teens talk about and stuff. Alright. Annie types, you asleep? David. No, I guess you're not either. Tongue sticking out. Annie. Can't. It's the wind. Sounds like cats fighting. What's your excuse? Tongue. Studying. Annie. So that's what they call porn now? David. Annie. WTF. Annie. No. David. I can't believe what Johnny did today. Change the subject. Annie. Me neither. That boy has issues. What the heck? The wind's so loud. That doesn't sound normal. LOL. David. No wind over here. Just rain. Annie. Lucky you. I need my beauty sleep. David. Damn right you do. Annie. What? You mean I look... Shit. I think I heard footsteps on the gravel outside. David. Get your crazy dad to check it out. Annie. I'm home alone. Of course. The fam are on holiday, remember? I told you. David. Really? Till when? We should hang out. Smiley face. Annie. They really sound like footsteps, but there's something weird about them. I should look out the window, but my bed is so warm. David. Sure you want to look out the window when you're alone? What if there really is someone out there looking at you? Not funny, David. David. Wow, chill. I'm sure it's nothing. Annie. Gonna check it out. Be right back. David. If there's something strange in your neighborhood. David. Who are you gonna call? Annie.
Ghostbusters!
David, there's someone in the...
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Yeah.
I was thinking about doing the same thing. Hey, second, how about one of us read Davies, and the other read Annie's.
Huh? Sure, why not?
Okay. Well, I
let's
have the
see.
link already opened up, so why don't I read Annie?
Oh, yeah, you sound like an Annie.
Oh, Christopher.
Go for it.
David, all right, but on one condition, I'm not going to curse, okay? I prefer not to.
Fine.
Okay, fine.
David, there's
All
someone
right.
in the garden.
What? Really?
Yes, I can see a man's back.
What's he doing?
He's looking for something on his hands and knees in the bushes.
He must be high. Probably looking for his drugs.
David, this is serious. What should I do?
Nothing. He'll probably go away by himself.
Oh, OMG. Now he's digging with his bare hands. He's ruining the garden. Crap, he's turning around.
What's he look like? What does he look like?
David, WTH, this isn't funny.
What?
How are you doing that?
What are you talking about?
I can see that it's you in my garden. How are you running here without touching your phone? Look up. I'm by the window. Can't you hear me banging on it?
Frick, Annie, now you're scaring me too. I'm definitely not in your garden. That's not me.
Stop playing around. I can see your face, and you're wearing that stupid football jacket you are so proud of.
Must be someone who looks like me. Honestly, Annie, I'm at home. I wouldn't play around like that.
It has to be a friend of yours, David, playing a sick prank. How else could he be wearing your jacket?
There are loads of jackets like that. My friends don't look anything like me either. You just have me on your mind, that's all.
He's digging again. Freaking leave already!
Annie, do you have a gun in your house?
Don't be stupid, David. I couldn't shoot anyone.
You don't have to use it, just show that you're carrying.
Doesn't that jacket have your name on the back?
Yeah, the team all got one with their name on it.
I can see your freaking name!
What?
What the heck is David? Is this David?
Annie, that jacket's in my closet.
Crap, he's seen me. Why is he smiling like that? He's coming.
Call the cops! Annie! Annie, pick up! I've called the cops. I told them there's a break-in attempt at your place. They said they're on their way, but it'll take a half an hour. Annie, are you there?
It's in the house. Can't talk. I have to be quiet. Lights off. I'm in a closet with a knife. Hard to type, shaking too much.
Hang in there, Annie. The police will be there in 20 minutes. Do you know where he is?
It, not he. The look it had when it saw me, David. No person could look like that.
Jesus Christ. Does it know where you are?
No, I grabbed the knife when I saw it running toward the house, and I got in the closet when I heard it breaking in.
Okay, good. You'll be fine. A druggie doesn't have the brains to find someone hiding in a closet. The police will be there soon.
Oh gosh, it's calling out to me. It doesn't sound like you, David. His voice is so deep. You know, for a little bit of meta humor, it kind of does sound like you a second. Filling the house. Filling my head.
I am the villain in this horror story. What is it saying?
Come out, Annie. I just want to look at you. He keeps repeating that over and over. Have I gone mad, David? Is this what it feels like? Sorry. Is this what that feels like?
Just 10 more minutes, Annie. Keep it together. You are so strong, you will get through this.
It's coming up the stairs, but slowly, irregular steps. Why does it look like you, David? Why you?
I don't know, Annie. Please believe me.
Can you make it stop? Please make it stop?
I would if I could, I promise you.
It's at the end of the hall. David, I didn't want to say anything to my parents when they left. I was listening to music. Is that the last time I see them?
Annie?
This has something to do with you, David. Only you can make it stop. Think fast.
I don't know, Annie. God, please.
Please.
It might be because I think about you so much. I think about you all the time.
Second, are you there?
Yeah, did I get cut out when I said that?
Yes.
Yeah, just for a second.
All right. So the line is, it might be because I think about you so much. I think about you all the time.
So stop.
I don't know how.
It's scraping something on the wall. It's getting closer. Please, David.
I'm trying so hard.
It's slowing down. Try harder. Whatever you're doing, it's working. It stopped. I can't hear anything.
Really? Don't go out yet. Stay until the police get there.
What should I tell them if he's gone?
Everything, Annie. Everything you told me.
I didn't know you felt that way about me, David. Smiley face.
I'm so glad it stopped.
Can you come over in the morning, David? I really need to see you. Smiley face.
Of course not.
Hang on a sec.
Of course, Annie. I'll be there.
Great. Can't wait.
Annie? Annie, how do I know this is you? Annie96 went offline.
Maybe that wasn't Annie.
And that
No.
you will never know.
That was fun. It definitely works better with two people reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, I'm not the best at one-man shows. I am called.
Well, just dialogues are difficult to do with one person.
Yeah.
Makes sense. All right. So let's see.
Okay, if we
Assuming
want
we're still-
shorter stories, I've got a couple options here.
Okay.
I have a comedic ghost story that's kind of funny. I have something a little traditionally more spooky, and I can read a few pages on the history of the Jersey Devil. What would you prefer?
I don't know.
Well, I'm tempted to go say funny because I'm the only one who's tried that so far, and yeah, I feel like. But I feel like the comedian who's dying on stage when I do that, so I might need somebody to back me up on that one.
All right,
Yeah.
so I should read the funny ghost
Or
story.
laugh instead of scream.
Yeah, sure. Let's go for it.
All right. This story is called The Ghost Catcher.
Okay.
Is this like a ghost buster?
No, it's a ghost catcher. Who's not really a ghost catcher, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Mhm.
All right. Now, this is a very old story. It is about a young barber who did not really want to be a barber. And it is about a ghost. 2 ghosts. The young barber's name was Tom. Tom did not like being a barber. He didn't like cutting men's hair or shaving their faces. He really wanted to be a farmer. But Tom's father had been a barber, and when Tom's father died, all he left his son was his bag of barber tools: razors, scissors, brushes, combs, and a mirror. So what could Tom do? He tried to be a barber too. In those days, you had to do whatever your father did. Well, Tom was a clever boy, but he wasn't a good barber, and after a while people stopped coming to him. He is not as good a barber as his father, they said. I'd rather be a farmer, Tom thought, but if I have to be a barber, I will leave this town. I will go to the city where no one knows that my father was a better barber than I. So Tom picked up his bag of barber tools, razors, scissors, brushes, combs, and a mirror, and set off for the city. Tom walked all morning, and he walked all afternoon. When night came, Tom sat under a willow tree to rest. The city was still a long way off, and Tom decided to spend the night under the willow tree. Then I can start out fresh in the morning, he said to himself. Tom lay down on the ground and fell asleep at once. As luck would have it, that very willow tree was haunted by a ghost. Soon after Tom fell asleep, the ghost floated down to the treetop. As soon as Tom fell asleep, the ghost floated down from the treetop crying, "Boo!" What a bad dream, he said to himself as he woke up. I dreamed this willow tree was haunted by a ghost. "Boo!" cried the ghost again. Now he was right at Tom's ear. This was not a dream. Tom had to think fast. "Don't you come close to me, ghost," Tom said quickly. "Do you know who I am? I am a ghost catcher. That's what I am. I catch ghosts, and I put them in my ghost bag." And with that, Tom opened his bag of barber tools and pulled up the mirror. "Here, let me show you one ghost I've caught tonight," he said. Tom held the mirror up to the ghost's face. "I think I'll put you in the bag to keep him company." The ghost looked into the mirror, and what did he see? His own face, of course. But he didn't know that. He thought the barber really did have a ghost in the bag. "Oh, please," begged the ghost, "don't put me in your ghost bag. I'll give you anything you want. Just let me go." "Anything I want?" said Tom. "Then I want a bag of gold. Maybe 2 bags of gold." Zip! In the wink of an eye, 2 bags of gold were at Tom's feet. "Good enough," Tom said. "I promise not to put you in my bag this time. But remember, if you bother me again, into the ghost bag you go." As soon as Tom let the mirror fall back into the bag, the ghost was gone. Tom never did go to the city. He took some of the gold the ghost had given him, and he bought himself a farm. He bought cows and pigs and horses and chickens. Tom was a fine farmer. He didn't have to cut hair or shave faces anymore. But Tom kept his bag of barber tools, and that was very clever of him. For as luck would have it, the ghost met his cousin one day and told him everything that had happened. At the end of his story, the cousin burst out laughing. "Hoo-hoo-hoo," he laughed. "No man can catch a ghost, and there's no such thing as a ghost bag. You have been tricked." "Well, go and see for yourself," the ghost said, "but don't blame me if that man puts you in his bag." The cousin floated over to Tom's house and peeked through the window. Tom was eating his supper. He felt a cold breeze and looked up. Another ghost! Tom ran to get his bag of tools. Quickly, he opened the bag and pulled up the mirror. Then he held the mirror against the window and shouted, "Come on in, I'll put you in the bag too." The cousin took one look at the ghost in the bag and floated off as fast as he could go. From that time on, Tom lived in peace. He was clever enough to keep his bag of barber tools handy, although he never had to use them again. The end.
Little creativity goes a long way.
Yeah, I guess that was kind of clever.
Oh, wait. Ghosts were alive before magic tricks were a thing.
Yeah.
All right. Here's a little short story called The Attic.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna be right back, guys. You guys go on ahead. I'm gonna see what Ace wants.
Okay.
All right. A man named Rupert lived with his dog in a house. Deep in the woods, Rupert was a hunter and a trapper. The dog was a big German shepherd named Sam. Rupert had raised Sam from a pup. Almost every morning, Rupert went hunting, and Sam stayed behind and guarded the house. One morning, checking his traps, he got the feeling that something was wrong at home. He hurried back as fast as he could, but when he got there, he found that Sam was missing. He searched the house and the woods nearby, but Sam was nowhere to be seen. He called and he called, but the dog did not answer. For days, Rupert looked for Sam, but he could find no trace of him. Finally, he gave up and went back to his work. But one morning, he heard something moving in the attic. He picked up his gun. And he thought, "I'd better be quiet about this." So he took off his boots, and in his bare feet, he began to climb the attic stairs. He slowly took one step, and another, until at last he reached the attic door. He stood outside listening, but he didn't hear a thing. Then he opened the door and stepped in. Ah! He stepped on a nail. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Should we trade off scary stories now?
Sure, why not?
All right. So, oh, by the way, Daylover, this whole time, you still not got one.
I was thinking about that one from the creepypasta. I remembered a little bit about it, but not a whole of it.
The Halloween one?
No, it's the other one. It's about a young girl finding a stray dog and taking it home.
Is it another really, really, really long one?
No, I don't remember how long it is. Like, I can try to tell it, like, how much I remember of it.
Right. Here, let's let Calliope go first, and then we'll try to look it up.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a somewhat spooky story here. Let me just have my book here. Just let me find the right page. Okay. This is a story by Hans Christian Andersen. And trust me, when he wanted to do spooky, he could do spooky.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, he could do some really gruesome stuff, and I'm not going to read anything particularly gruesome right now.
Yeah, and really sad as well.
Okay, and also this story has rather a long introduction, so I'm going to skip the first part of it. The story is called "The Will-o'-the-Wisps Are in the Town." And at the beginning of a story, there has just been some bad times, and the main character is a writer of fairy stories, probably based on Andersen himself. And because some bad things have happened lately, he can't find any inspiration. He can't find a fairy tale to tell. So the first part of the story deals with him searching far and wide, trying to find a fairy tale. And then one night he goes down to the swamp where the bog witch lives, and he talks with the bog witch for a while, and she tells him a story. So I'm going to start off reading where she starts telling him about something that happened in the swamp the other day. All right?
Sounds good.
Okay.
You know the story, Daylover?
No.
Ooh. Not Hans
Okay.
Christian Andersen.
Okay. And the bog witch told the following. There was great excitement in the swamp yesterday, a big celebration. a little will-o'-the-wisp was born. Actually, 12 of them were born by that brood of will-o'-the-wisps who have the ability, if they wish, to appear as people and act and rule among them as if they were born human beings. That's a big event in the swamp, and that's why all the will-o'-the-wisp males and females danced as little lights over the bog and meadows. There are female ones, you see, but we're not talking about them. I sat on the cupboard there and had all 12 little newborns on my lap. They were shining like glowworms and had already begun to hop around. They grew bigger by the minute, so that before a quarter of an hour had passed, they were as big as their father or uncle. It's an old innate law and privilege that when the moon is in the precise position it was last night, and the wind blows as it blew yesterday, then all the will-o'-the-wisps born at that hour and minute can become human beings. And each of them flits around for a whole year exercising their power. A will-o'-the-wisp can travel around the country and the world too, if he's not afraid to fall in the sea or to be blown out in a great storm. He can get right inside a person, speak for him, and make all the movements he wants to. The will-o'-the-wisps can take any form, male or female, act in their minds, but with all his own nature, so he can get what he wants. In 1 year, he must show that he can lead 365 people astray, and in grand fashion. He must lead them away from what's true and right. Then he'll obtain the highest a will-o'-the-wisp can aspire to, becoming a runner in front of the devil's finest coach. He'll receive a glowing orange uniform and breathe fire from his throat. That's something a common will-o'-the-wisp can really lick his lips over. But there's also danger and a lot of worry for an ambitious will-o'-the-wisp who intends to play a part. If a person becomes aware of who he is, he can blow him away, and the will-o'-the-wisp is put out and must return to the swamp. And if the will-o'-the-wisp is moved by longing for his family before the year is over and betrays himself, then he's also out of it. He no longer burns clearly and soon goes out and can't be relit. And if the year ends without him leading 365 people away from truth and what's good and beautiful, then he's sentenced to lie in a rotten tree and shine without moving. And that's the worst possible punishment for a lively will-o'-the-wisp. I knew all this, and I told all of it to the 12 little will-o'-the-wisps who were sitting on my lap. They were wild with joy. I told them it was surest and most comfortable to give up glory and not do anything. But the young licks didn't want that. They already saw themselves in glowing orange with flames coming out of their mouths. "Stay with us," said some of the elders. "Trick the humans," said others. "People are drying out our meadows, draining them. What will become of our descendants?" "We want to go blow blazes," said the newborn will-o'-the-wisps, and so it was decided. They immediately had a minute-long dance. It couldn't have been shorter. The elf maidens swung around 3 times with all the others because they didn't want to appear haughty. They actually preferred to dance by themselves. Then it was time for the godparents' gifts. Skipping stones, as it's called. The presents flew like small stones across the bog water. Each of the elf maidens gave a piece of her veil. "Take it," they said, and then you will right away at a pinch know the higher forms of dance, that the most difficult swings and turns. You'll have a proper carriage and can appear at the most elegant parties. The nightjar taught each of the young will-o'-the-wisps to say bra, 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 and to say it at the right times, and that's a big gift that pays off. The owl and the stork also gave something, but they said it wasn't worth mentioning, so we won't talk about it. Just then King Valdemar on his wild hunt came thundering over the bog, and when that company heard about the celebration, they sent a couple of fine dogs as gifts. Dogs who could hunt with the wind, and could surely carry a will-o'-the-wisp or 3. 2 old nightmares who make a living by riding were at the party. They taught the young will-o'-the-wisps the art of slipping through keyholes, which would open every door to them. They offered to convey the young will-o'-the-wisps to town, where they knew their way around. Usually they ride through the air on their own long manes, and they tie into knots to sit firmly on. But this time each of them straddled the back of a wild hunt dog and took the young wills who were to trick and bewilder people on their laps. Swoosh, they were gone. That was all last night. Now the will-o'-the-wisps are in town. They have set to work. But how and what they are doing, you tell me. I have a pain in my big toe because of a weather wire that tells me something is up. But this is a whole fairy tale, said the man. Well, it's really just the beginning of one, said the bog witch. Can you tell me how the will-o'-the-wisps are romping about and carrying on, and in what shape they are appearing to lead people astray? I do think, said the man, that a whole novel could be written about the will-o'-the-wisps, with 12 chapters, one for each will-o'-the-wisp, or maybe even better, an entire folk comedy. You should write that, said the bog witch, or maybe it's best to let it go. Yes, that's more comfortable and pleasant, said the man. Then you avoid being staked in the newspapers, which is just as hard as it is for the will-o'-the-wisp to lie in a rotten tree, shining but unable to say a word. It's all the same to me, said the bog witch. But just let the others write, those who are able and those who are not. I'll give an old tap from my barrel that will open up the cupboard with poetry and bottles, and from there they can get what they're lacking. As for you, my good man, it seems to me that you have gotten enough ink on your fingers and have reached the age and maturity not to run after fairy tales every year, when there are much more important things to do there now. You must have understood what is going on, haven't you? The will-o'-the-wisps are in town, said the man. I have heard it, and I understand it. But what do you want me to do about it? I'll be raked over the coals if I see one and tell people, look, there goes a will-o'-the-wisp in the guise of an honest man. They also wear skirts, said the bog witch. The will-o'-the-wisp can assume all shapes and appear in all places. He goes to the church, not for the Lord's sake, but maybe he's gone into the minster. He speaks on election day, not for the country's sake, but just for his own. He's an artist, both in the painter's paint jar and the theater's makeup jar. But when he gets complete power, then there's the end of it. The jar's empty. I talk and talk, but I must get out of my throat what's stuck there, even though it harms my own family. I'm going to be the savior of humanity. It's truly not something I can help, and I'm not doing it for the sake of a medal. But I'm doing the craziest thing I could. I'm telling a poet, so then the whole town will know about it. The town won't pay any attention, said the man. It won't affect a single person. They'll all think I'm telling a fairy tale, when I tell them in complete seriousness, the will-o'-the-wisps are in town, said the bog witch. Beware.
Is that the end?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Want to read chapter 2 of Discord's Haunted Castle?
Well, if you want. Sounded like you were... I mean, did you want someone else to read it if you were having trouble with it, or...?
Honestly, yes.
Alright. Go ahead, hit me up with the link.
Okay. Here you go.
Alright.
Chapter 2. Now the fun begins.
I think I may actually grow to like this multiple reader thing. I like it too. Alright.
You do a good Discord voice.
Thanks. I've gotten to the point where I couldn't do one at all to now I'm like just barely getting the hang of it.
Yeah.
Alright.
Knock, knock.
The door opens slowly. Who is it? Just little old me. Fluttershy opened the door a little further to see a tiny Discord standing there, which quickly grew to full size. What are you doing out so late? It's nightmare night, my dear Fluttershy. If there ever was a time for chaos. Fluttershy narrowed her eyes suspiciously. What are you up to? Twilight gave me permission to spook up her castle. is waiting for all of you to take a nice little tour. Discord gleefully rubbed his mismatched hands together. Discord, Fluttershy sighed. You know I don't do Nightmare Night. Yes, I know, said Discord airily. But as I recall, the last time a pony was left out of one of our little get-togethers, it got a little awkward. Well, I appreciate the gesture, but I just wouldn't have any fun. Ah, well, at least I'll have 7 screamers there. Fluttershy cocked an eyebrow. What are you going to do exactly? Oh, it's going to be so much fun! Discord launched into a list of the tricks he had set up for Twilight's castle. Fluttershy bit her lip. Maybe I should come along. Make sure no pony gets hurt. Hurt? Discord looked shocked. I'm hurt that you would imply I would ever put my friends in harm's way. But I can see deep inside that you really want to take part in the festivities. So, how about we make your place our base of operations? We can watch the others experience my little haunts, and you can help make sure everything goes smoothly. And okay. Excellent! Discord vanished and reappeared in Fluttershy's cottage, along with a set of 6 television screens, each showing the front of Twilight's castle. Do they have television in MLP yet?
Yeah.
I don't think so. They have film strips.
Discord made one.
It's magic. You don't have to explain it.
Well, it's chaos magic. There is no explaining it, so I guess that
That's
explains
true.
it.
Well, they do have film strips. We've seen that.
Yeah.
They're a few years behind in that particular technology. They do have brain reading mechanisms for when you want to examine your friend's pinky sense, though.
Yeah.
Fluttershy closed her door and went to sit beside it. Her animal friends also gathered round. Discord conjured a microphone in his hand. Now the fun begins! Twilight and others all cautiously approached the castle doors. You sure it didn't say anything about what to expect? Applejack said nervously. She was clad in a black coat and a pointy hat. No, said Twilight, but I figure it's only fair to give him a chance. He did okay dressing up Spike in Big Mac's Ogres and Oubliettes game. Yes, agreed Spike. I'm looking forward to this. Me too, chimed in Rainbow Dash. She stroked the pennant on her Zap costume. I'm ready for anything Discord can throw at us. Careful what you wish for, Starlight said ominously, adjusting her masked Matterhorn goggles.
Wait, I thought she was a manticore.
It says Matterhorn now.
Yeah, I know. That's weird.
Maybe she changed her mind.
Yeah.
There you go. I just hope whatever he has planned doesn't damage my outfit, said Rarity as she brushed corn leaves from her Renaissance dress. I'm pretty sure that originally said insert Rarity line here. Y'all are the one who keeps wearing fancy outfits where you'll be running around, Applejack replied. Even in sheer terror, one should look presentable, Rarity retorted. What are we waiting for? Cried Pinkie Pie as she bounced up and down in her beach ball costume. Let's get in there and get scared already. Pinkie's right, girls. Let's quit stalling. As one they moved towards the door, which swung open of their own accord. When they entered the foyer, the doors slammed shut behind them. Discord's voice echoed through the halls. Welcome, my little ponies. I hope you're all enjoying this little contest I've cooked up. Somewhere deep inside this haunted castle, I've hidden a pot of candy. First pony to find it is the winner. And, just like our first game, no flying and no magic. In a flash of light, the ponies with wings and horns saw them vanish. Just like old times, grumbled Rainbow Dash. Even the maze wasn't this spooky, Applejack said with a slight quiver. Scared? Rainbow Dash smirked. No, protested Applejack. I'm just making an observation. For a moment, they all took in their surroundings. The lamps, which normally glowed bright yellow, were now glowing a very faint blue. Spiderwebs covered the walls and ceiling, and the hearts on the banisters had changed into pony skulls. Okay, every pony, announced Twilight. I say we split into groups. There's 7 of us, so it can be 1 group of 3 and 2 groups of 2. Or 1 group of 3 and 1 group of 4. Rainbow Dash said, well, since it is a competition, we may as well split all the way up so we don't slow each other down. At that point, a ghostly moan resonated through the castle. Said Rainbow. I'll just go with Applejack, so she doesn't get scared. My hero, said Applejack with a glare. I'll go with Pinkie Pie, said Rarity. I'll take Spike, said Twilight. Starlight, who do you want to go with? How about I stick with you and Spike, guessed Starlight. That's fine. Now where are we headed? Now who's heading where? I call the kitchens, cried Pinkie. Map room, said Rainbow Dash. I guess we'll hit the library then, said Twilight. Good luck, every pony. Each group then set off.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm interested to see what happens next.
All right, so
Now I have a really great image in my head of Pinkie Pie bouncing off the walls in a giant beach ball
Yeah.
costume.
Yeah, beach ball costume.
Get
Yeah.
bounce!
I had that too.
All right. Well, heck, should we do one more chapter then?
All right, and then maybe we can start winding down because it's getting a little late.
Yeah.
Okay.
So take this and
So you
end
know,
it up.
guys, now I'm also listening to the instrumental version of Thriller by Michael Jackson.
Ooh.
That's good Halloween listening.
All right. Winding down Halloween night. Twilight and Starlight and Spike headed slowly down the hall towards the
Oh, wait.
library. Yes?
Chapter 3, Turnabout is fair play.
Hmm.
Indeed. Twilight, Starlight, and Spike headed slowly down the hall towards the library. Might as well check the other doors on the way. Starlight stopped at the first set of double doors in the hall, then squinted. All right, no horn. Guess I'll go the Earth Pony way. Spike and Twilight each leaned back as Starlight put her hoof on the handle and pulled. Inside was a jumble of mops and brooms. Okay, Starlight exhaled. Nothing scary. She rooted through the cleaning supplies. No pot of candy either. As she stepped back, the door slammed shut on its own, causing them all to jump. The next door was an empty closet and didn't slam. Neither did the one after that. Discord must be saving the real scares for later, observed Spike. I'll bet. Yeah! A Hydra burst out of the door and Spike was about to open. Its 5 heads lunged for him and the ponies then vanished. Okay, panted Twilight. Well played, Discord. Whew. Well played. The next few doors were opened without incident. Then they came to the library. Ready? Asked Twilight. Ready, asserted the other two. Here goes. Twilight pushed open the door and they all walked in. At first, everything in the library looked normal, aside from the webs and eerie blue light. Then Starlight noticed a thin object floating on its end in the center of the room. Wait, is that the Staff of Sameness? Gasped Twilight. That stick you used to make other ponies' cutie marks? Asked Spike. Twilight glared at him. What? I'm just making sure we're on the same page. What exactly is it doing here? Asked Starlight as she approached it. Discord likes to hit below the belt, Twilight said ruefully. Suddenly, the staff jumped towards them. 2 streams of energy shot at Twilight and Starlight, then pulled their cutie marks into the prongs of the staff. No! Starlight leaped at the staff, which zipped away from her. Twilight circled around to her left, then leapt at the staff on her right. The staff dodged. Spike tried to intercept it, but it jerked away from him as well. 3 kept pouncing on it, each trying to drive it towards the others, yet no matter what they did, it kept slipping through. This is ridiculous, exclaimed Twilight. How are we supposed to catch this thing? Starlight tried a different tactic. She slowly crept towards the staff, which was now floating in place. Come on, come to Auntie Starlight. You remember me, right? Just hold still. She made a grab at it with her hooves. Once again, it jerked out of reach. I've had about it. Enough of this, said Starlight angrily. Me too, said Spike with a deep breath, and blew out a stream of flame, which hit the staff and reduced it to ashes. Twilight and Starlight's cutie marks flew back to their owners. Well, that was a workout. Starlight looked at the heap of ashes. Nice job, Spike. Anytime. Rushed to the front of his costume, looking quite pleased with themselves. Yeah, good call, said Twilight. Let's poke around for that pot and get out of here. I guess it was only fair, mused Starlight. I never did give up my own cutie mark, so now I know a little about what it feels like. And that's that chapter.
Yay.
And the first comment is already calling out that the staff didn't actually do anything in the show. But
I know, I was thinking about
What?
that as you were reading. It was like a smoke and mirrors bit.
Yeah, I guess Discord
Yeah.
just did it. But
Yeah.
That was kind of low, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it seems like they've been trying to make Discord into Q lately.
Who?
You know, from
That's the
Star Trek,
character
the
he's
guy
based on Star Trek.
Well, I don't watch Star Trek, so I wouldn't know.
I don't watch Star Trek either, but I remember when Discord first premiered, half the fan base was explaining all the Q comparisons.
I see.
Mm.
Well, I was more exposed to Star Wars, so I wouldn't know anything about Star Trek.
Same.
Be
But yeah,
careful,
like
we don't want to start. We don't want to start a fandom war in the comments section.
That's true. I mean, this thing gets any comments. I think a lot of people might have just turned in after trick or treating instead of going on YouTube.
We didn't get a lot of trick or treaters this year.
We did. They stole all of the candy.
Well, no, we didn't get a lot of trick or
Surprisingly,
treaters, but we got like,
Sorry.
we put the candy out in front in a bowl, and yeah, it was gone in 20 minutes, so we had to improvise.
Yeah, whenever you put the candy outside
Daylover
in a
gave away all
bowl,
of the
obnoxious little twat takes the whole bowl for themselves.
Well,
Yeah,
last year we.
I mean, that had like every.
Sorry. You were saying a second?
Well, just that. I mean, yeah, like whenever I took anyone around, like we'd come across a house like halfway through that still had about half a bowl of candy left, then everybody would take a big handful, and there'd still be enough for at least the next few people. But I mean, yeah, like 20 minutes, it was all gone, and people were ringing our doorbell incessantly, and we had nothing to do. So Daylover gave away the cereal nobody wanted, and I made a big pot of hot chocolate, but we only got actually like, yeah, I think we only ended up serving between the two of us about 10 people because it was raining here, and like even the ones we did get were already saying, all right, this and the next house, and then we go home. So, Brewery Halloween
we
this
looked
year.
out on the weather. We looked out here. It was really nice weather for the trick or treaters.
No, that's nice.
Sounds nice,
Well,
yeah.
anyways,
So-
may I
Like
go?
that, Barry, you have me. Huh?
So New Jersey gets slammed a lot, but there is a reason they call it the Garden State.
Yep.
May I go?
May you what? Go what?
May I speak?
Sure.
No,
Go ahead.
you shall from this day forward be silenced. Good.
Okay, Mom. I'll shut up for the rest of my life. But anyways, last year, we barely got any trick-or-treaters. Like, my mom said that we only got, like, one. But this year, I think they got more, so much so that Mom didn't have enough candy. Like, there was...
Oh, wow.
She told me that there were 4 kids, and Mom only had 3 packs of Skittles left, but didn't have enough for the 4th kid, but he seemed okay with it. Apparently.
Yeah, I always
He was
figure
a
it's
good
better
sport.
to have. Yeah, I always figure it's better to get extra candy and have leftovers than risk running out. Worst thing that happens is then you have a whole pile of candy that you have to eat.
It is hard to argue with that.
Yeah.
Like, knowing me, it wouldn't last long, even if there was a lot left. But-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're sweet enough as is.
Oh,
Aw.
shucks.
Oh no, look, leftover candy. Whatever am I going to do?
Yeah,
Huh.
eat it.
Anyways,
Depends on
I think
what
I'm going to
candy
keep
it
reading
is,
the
though.
story, guys. I'll see you later.
All right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, why don't we go out on, like, what's a good Halloween short story closing? Oh, I know, okay. The 2-page one here. The Curse.
All right. Last story of the night. Go for it.
All right. My dad's friend Charlie Potter was a small, nervous man who always as if he was in some kind of danger. After he told me this story about his college fraternity, I understand why. The frat doesn't exist anymore, he said. It was banned years ago. We had just 9 members at that point, and we're taking in 2 more, Jack Lawton and Ernie Kramer. One night in January, just about this time of year, the 9 of us took them out into the country for their initiation, aka hazing. We took them to an order. 2 young men about our age had been murdered recently. Their murderer was still at large. We gave Jack a lighted candle and told him to go up to the 3rd floor. Stay there for an hour, we told him, then come back down. Don't speak, don't make any noise. If your candle goes out, carry on in the dark. From where we were standing, we could see the light from Jack's candle moving up the stairs to the 2nd floor, and to the 3rd. When he got to the 3rd floor, his candle went out. We guessed that he had come to a drafty corner and the wind blew it out. But when the hour went by and he didn't come down, we weren't so sure. We waited another 15 minutes and got more and more nervous. So we sent Ernie Kramer up after him. When Ernie got to the 3rd floor, his candle also went out. We waited 10 minutes, 20 minutes, but there was no sign of either of them. Come on down, we called, but they didn't answer. Finally, we decided to go and get them. Armed with flashlights, we started up the stairs. It was as quiet and dark as a grave. It was quiet and dark as a grave in that house. When we got to the 2nd floor, we called out again, but there was no answer. When we got to the 3rd floor, we walked into a great big open space like an attic. Jack and Ernie weren't there, but we saw footprints in the dust. These led to a room on the other side of the attic. That room was also empty, but there was fresh blood on the floor, and the window was wide open. It was about 25 feet to the ground, but there was no ladder or rope in sight that they could have used to get down. We searched the rest of the house and the land around the house and found nothing. We decided that they were playing a trick on us. We figured that in some way they'd escaped through the window and they were hiding in the woods. The blood on the floor was to throw us off track. We guessed that they'd show up the next day with a lot of stories and a lot of laughs, but they didn't. The next day, we told the Dean of Men what had happened, and he reported it to the police. The police didn't find anything either, and after several days, to this day, no one knows what happened to Jack Lawton or Ernie Kramer. There isn't much more to tell. We weren't arrested, but the college disbanded the fraternity and suspended the 9 of us from school for a year. The strangest part came after we graduated. Someone must have placed a curse on us. Every year since then, around the time of that initiation, one of us has died or gone crazy. I'm the only one left, and I'm in pretty good health. But there are times when I feel just a little...